Hello and welcome to lesson 27 of the Learning Guitar series. In this lesson we're going to discuss the shape of G minor from the perspective of scales and arpeggios. In the next lesson we'll cover the chords, and with it we will be finishing with the Dorian Mode. Great achievement. Okay, if you manage to follow my lessons from the beginning, with it basically you will have covered all major chords across the neck, all the Ionian mode basically across the neck, and all the Dorian mode across the neck, so all the minor, one type of minor, as you will see in the future. To understand the shape of G minor, let's have a look at the shape of G major first. And for those of you that don't know what I mean by shape as opposed to the chord called G major, this is G major, and we're all probably familiar with it, okay? When I say shape, I mean imagine like there is a barré at fret 0, okay? And now we're starting transposing this particular shape, hence I'm calling it a shape. And because we know this is the root note, so when we're in G, this is a G, okay? And as we transpose it, say now the same shape is not a G chord anymore. Of course, like in this case, because here is my root note, this is a B flat, so I'm on fret number 6. Okay, maybe not the most comfortable chord to play, especially if you're playing strumming kind of material, but this is the concept, the theory behind the idea of the cage system, you know, for a start, or anyway, the idea behind forms in general. Now, from major to minor, we know that we are flattening a third. Okay, so here is my major third, one of them, when it comes to this particular shape. The other one will be on my B string. In this case, I'm playing B flat, so it would be the note D. So my D note here has to descend a semitone, has to be lowered a semitone from a major third to a minor third. So, of course, I could do this. Okay? Now, unfortunately, I cannot at the same time, I don't have enough fingers to also lower the second octave of that D note. Maybe if I did this, no, not even actually, this. So maybe with some degree of tapping plus hammering on, okay? But already these 4 notes is G minor. Also, because of the same theory, also these 4 notes is G minor. Okay? I could start from here. So I'm actually omitting the root note. These are all shape of G minor, and on this we're going to be basing all our scales and arpeggio in this particular shape. If you think of it in G, like we've done most of the lessons so far, we have G minor in the shape of E, followed by G minor in the shape of D minor. Okay, you should be familiar with this. Then we have G in the shape of C minor. Last 2 lessons we discussed G in the shape of A minor, and now we find ourselves here, G in the shape of G minor. Now let's discuss the chords and the scales. First of all, when it comes to the scale, as you will see in the PDF, actually I'm going to show it to you. So as usual, the lesson has a PDF attached to it. We kind of go full circle, because the shape of G minor Dorian is exactly, in terms of finger pattern, as the shape of E that you studied, E major, that you studied in lesson 1. So at this point, whatever you studied in lesson 1, in terms of scales, applies to this particular shape. And because more likely lesson 1 is the first one you did, hopefully, that material will still be kind of fresh in your head. So let's see what I mean by that. I'm going to do a tap here so that, you know, we're using G as a reference. We're still using the key of G. This is F Ionian. That's what we literally started in lesson 1. It's just in lesson 1 we did it in the key of G, so it was down here. If you want to think in terms of fingering, it would be 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. And I'm referring to the fingers I'm using, okay? Not the number of the fret. Transposed, now I'm in F. This is F Ionian, so F major. Because this is F major 7, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, major 7, root note, and then again 2nd, 3rd. We know the numbers of an Ionian scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Simple. Now, if I start the same, using the same pattern, but I'm going to start from the 2nd note of the scale, okay? So I'm going to play. Okay? And I use this as a reference. Now G is my number 1. Okay? If G is my number 1, the 2nd note, A, is number 2. The 3rd note, B flat, is actually a flat 3. Hence we start finding in the same shape there is another scale that we call Dorian, exact same notes, but the numbers now are 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 8. The shape is exactly the same. So this is F Ionian, but this is also G Dorian. Okay? And if you already studied my lesson on harmony and theory, which is lesson 16, all this probably is like, it's something that you already understand. I'm just repeating the concept for those who are coming across this lesson just for the first time. Which means all the studies, since they are the same, all the studies you've done on intervals, triads, extended triads, group of threes, group of fours that you find in the PDF for lesson 1, they still apply. Even now you are hearing them in Dorian, but the exercises are exactly the same. So just keep developing those. And that's one of the advantages of the cage system, where you can kind of limit the amount of things that you need to practice. Again, I'm going to repeat myself for the newcomers, let's put it this way. Why bother? Okay? If it's the same notes, why don't I just play major scale all the time? It's the same notes. And already explained before, it's a matter of reference. Say I have a song that resolves in minor, and by resolving, I mean the song rests on a minor chord. Think of it as the last chord of the song, okay? Or if you want to think of an absurd, I don't know many songs based on only one chord. Actually, maybe if you know any, let me know. Actually, now I can think of it. No, I can't. So let's say I have a song which is just a B flat minor, okay? Just this. Okay? I'd rather think in Dorian so that I can actually see B flat minor on the score and play B flat minor. So I can think of it in terms of arpeggios, the scale that can go, the multiple scales that can go with it, etc. As opposed to have to do a mental passage and think, okay, B flat is chord number 2 for A flat, so I can play A flat Ionian over that. Because the moment I start thinking A flat Ionian over this, at least in my brain, the arpeggio I'm going to think is an arpeggio of A flat. Okay? Which is this. Instead of thinking. So eventually in soloing, I'll always find my landing note more comfortably. So the notes I want to ending my phrases on, if I'm thinking Dorian. Okay? Aside from that, as I said, it is the same note. So that's one of the reasons there is often kind of a mental confusion among students about what's the point of modes. Okay? And as we progress, when we look into, things closer, material which might be closer to do jazz fusion and, you know, more improvised kind of music that accepts alterations and embellishments. And you will notice that actually modes will come really, really handy, because we're going to superimpose scales over, you know, different type of chords and create different type of alterations. Anyway, let's move on. So from the point of view of the scale, just keep doing the exercises from lesson number 1. They still apply, they still work. So like, say, again, let's go back to the key of G. We're still doing intervals. And all the variations that you find in the first PDF. We are still doing the triads. And as I said, since I presume you will start from lesson number 1, this will already be done, okay? And of course the groupings. This is group of 3. And then group of 4. As usual, I suggest you do this with a metronome, obviously. Arpeggios. Now that's the interesting part. As usual, we have a series of arpeggios. I'll show them to you on the guitar, but, you know, of course, they're also on the PDF. As you can see, like, you have the usual triad, -7, -6, other 9, 9, 6, 9. In this case, we can go all the way to 11, 13, so the entire modal arpeggio, so all the extensions. And also we have a arpeggio that we can spell over 2 octaves, because there is a second octave for the triad, for the -7, and for the -6. So this is the full caged arpeggio, and same thing, but just with the triad. This is with the -7, this is with the triad. And of course, 2 octaves. Let's start from that. If you don't know why the chords, the arpeggios in this case, are spelling, say, with a 6, with a 9, with an 11, and with a 13, or, you know, -7 in the first place, again, have a look at the harmony theory lesson, or the very first lesson on Dorian, which right now off the top of my head, I want to say 19, but I'm not too sure. I mean, I'm sure you'll find it. It's on YouTube, because in there I explain the Dorian mode and why the embellishments, so beside the triad 1, flat 3, 5, why the embellishments end up being flat 7, 9, 11, and 13, and not, say, flat 13. As you will see, that's possible for, say, the Aeolian mode. Aeolian mode has got that, and the Phrygian mode has got that. Now, let's look at the arpeggios. Well, they're kind of simple in a way, once you get familiar with them. This is 1, flat 3, 5. 1, flat 3, 5, 7. 1, flat 3, 5, 7, 9. Now with the 11th. With the 13. So that's the full modal arpeggio. I call it like that because it contains all the notes of the mode. And if you think about it, these are 7 notes, and actually are the same 7 notes of the scale. And in fact, the scale is spelled as an horizontal structure. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 8. It follows a logical order. While in the case of the arpeggio, it's the same 7 notes, but spelled in interval of thirds. So now you have 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, which is the same as the second. So 1, second, flat 3, 4th, 5, 6, flat 7. So it's still the scale, it's just spelled as an arpeggio. That's with the octave, okay? How do you exercise this? You simply take each individual arpeggio. So in this case, I'm going to start from a triad. Starting from A flat, I'm going to use the lowest possible available space on the neck. And just perform it like this. And you can go up the neck and then backwards. And you want to do the same thing reversed. Tell yourself what key you're playing. Remember, this is basically your root note. So in this case, this is A flat, A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E. That's very important for your photographic memory, while repetition of doing this is important for your muscle memory. The third variation of this kind of exercise you want to do is alternate. So you are ascending as many times as you want, okay? Then you go up grammatically, descending, ascending, descending. To recap, just ascending, just descending, alternate. This is basically just a triad. As you can see, there is a little bit of work to do, because you're gonna have to do the same then for -7, then for -6, minor with the other 9, 9, 6, 9, etc. In the PDF, this is explained on the second page. So say if it's just for the sake of argument, this is now -7. I'll just do the alternate version. So now you have -7. Okay, minor with the other 9. So 1 flat 3 5 9. Second 7 9. Etc. etc. Until you get all the way to And this is a great exercise because by repetition also you'll start remembering where the intervals are. Certain intervals are having the root note as a perspective. What I mean by that is, like, after a while you get used that if this is your root note, this is your flat 7. This is your 5th. Okay, in this case, this is your flat 3, and if you studied major, the previous lesson, you'll know by now that this is a major 3, when this is the root note. Okay, and from the point of view of thinking in terms of intervals, then it kind of eliminates even the need of thinking in terms of necessarily strictly scales. From one point, I can think an interval, another point, and that's why, like, the interval studies that I suggest you to do when we studied all the cage system and the modes, and you can apply the same concept to the 3 notes per strings because this is actually the same thing. Let's move on. So, having done these kind of exercises, now we look at the cage version. The cage version, as opposed to what we did so far, is using all the notes available. What does that mean? If you look at this particular, say for -7, okay, we have 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, like I just explained to you. Then you have another, say, 1 here, flat 3, 5, 7. But this 7, we know that the first string and the last string are exactly the same, which means that there is a flat 7 here, which so far I haven't used, because so far we've done everything from the root. In the case of the full-on caged arpeggio, you will have this. Flat 7 is going to start on the flat 7. You're going to have flat 7, root note, flat 3, 5, flat 7, root note, 5, 3, flat 7, root note. Why do I ask you to study arpeggios from the root rather than directly with the cage system? Well, for ear training purposes, okay? Because if you start the arpeggios from the root, you're really gonna hear the sound of a 5th, the sound of a 3rd, the sound of a flat 7, etc. If I just play you this, your ears will tend to think to feel like this is the resolving note, this is the root note. And in this case, this would be a B flat major 6, okay? Instead, actually, what I wanted to play is actually C minor, okay? And of course, now that I play the chord, you can hear it, okay? But if I just do this, because I started from the root note, now you're hearing C minor, okay? But the cage system is important because it allows us to cover all the area of the neck. So that's where we study both. So when we study the cage system, in this case, the shape will look like this. It's on the PDF anyway. And I would suggest again to study it chromatically. So do it in one particular key, in this case I mean A, as many times as you feel is necessary for your muscle memory to develop, and then move up chromatically on the guitar. And you can do the same just using the triad if you want. So 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. Same concept. Now, if we want to recap and see how our studies are allowing us to actually play the same thing all across the guitar, all across the neck of the guitar, now you can see that we had. This is basically still in the cage system, G minor in the shape of E minor. Then we studied the same in the shape of D minor. Then we did in the shape of C minor, in the shape of A minor, and now we're concluding it. And now we're back. So basically we just covered the entire neck of the guitar, okay? I could start from here, obviously, like in this right now I'm just avoiding the empty strings. So let's say if it was in F. Right? So if we just wanted to play using just the arpeggios for a particular minor chord, there you go. They are already there. Let's go back to the PDF. After that, we have exercises group of 3, group of 4s. Now, when we discuss group of 3, group of 4 applied to arpeggios, we can apply it both to the modal arpeggio. So 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, 13, root note. And we can apply it to the cage arpeggio. In this case, I'm going to use minor 7, or you can use even the triadic one. So, again, it's all in the PDF anyway, if you cannot follow it here. What does it mean? Well, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 3, 5, 7, 5, flat 7, 9, flat 7, 9, 11, 9, 11, 13, 11, 13 root note. And it sounds like this. Okay, this is in the case of the modal arpeggio. And again, as an exercise, you can start from the lowest available position. And then eventually move chromatically. So this would be the full A minor Dorian arpeggio performed in group of 3. Same thing can be done in group of 4. etc. Next on the PDF, you'll find from scale to arpeggios, and this is also very useful exercise, and also from chord 1 to chord 2. What does that mean? So from scale to arpeggio means we're exercising how to move from one to the other. In this case, it's a very basic form where, say, we ascend with a scale, and we descend with the arpeggio. And again, you can start, let's say this time let's start in B. I said B because that's my root note. Okay, and vice versa. You can descend with the arpeggio. Of course, you can also do it just with an octave. You can always break down these exercises in smaller chunks. I tend to, advise the PDFs, there would be like 20 pages all the time. So you can use your creativity to push them further. From the way I see it, you're learning a sound, and with these exercises, once generally I produce this, if that's the correct word. I produce this lesson in an interval of 3 weeks, 2 weeks and a half, 3 weeks. If you do this for 2-3 weeks, say even like an hour a day, in a way, these sounds will stay in your head. Okay, that's the idea. Because once you hear the sound of Dorian, then probably when you will use the sound of Dorian you're playing. From chord number 1 to chord number 2 is, okay, if we're looking at it from the perspective of G, we say the G, Dorian, and F Ionian is the same thing. So in this case, we're passing from chord number 1, so that's F, major 7 in this case. I'm going to G. In time, you'll see we'll construct a way to play all 7 modes, so all the entire diatonic scale harmonized in chords, pretty much staying within the same area. And again, we can ascend maybe with the major and descend with the minor. Sorry for that. Sometimes it's hard to speak and concentrate on the playing at the same time. Same thing, we can descend in minor and ascend in major. Okay? So that's G minor, F major. And again, that's a very useful exercise. And of course, transpose it so that your photographic memory gets used to where that chord is, where that shape is, and say you see C minor on a chart, and automatically you see this. Generally the shape of E and shape of A are the one that people tend to study first. The moment you learn a barré chord, probably those are the first two that people becomes very familiar with. In time, you'll see that all 5 actually they are equally easy to visualize. Maybe, as I say, these are more used for strumming, pop song, etc. But if you're playing a solo, or if you're playing an accompanied solo guitar, chord melody, visualizing these other chords, even if you don't use them as such, maybe not very often you might play this when you're strumming a song, but automatically you see this. And when we study pentatonics, and in case you're asking yourself after 27 lessons why I haven't discussed those yet, it's because when we'll go beyond the basic pentatonic things, which I guess most of you already know. So it becomes easy to visualize this one too, which is, the pentatonic that goes with it. Let's see what else do we have in the PDF. It's a lot of work, but you can do this. We have the from major to minor, these exercises here, and connecting shapes, which are these two exercises down here. From major to minor is also very useful because now that you know Ionian, we're going from Ionian to Dorian. But in this case, it's in the same key. The exercise I showed you before, we're going from chord number 1 to chord number 2. And in that case, it's still from major to minor because the chord number 1 is major, chord number 2 is minor. In this case, instead, we're looking at the same key. So we're looking at G major, going into G minor. So we're looking at, imagine playing, let's do this in the key of C. So C major, in the shape of G, going into C minor in the shape of G. Okay, for C major we learned I don't remember, maybe lesson 13, that this was G major, G Ionian, and now we studied also G Dorian. Or so this way you're gonna learn. You're gonna hear and learn the difference, okay? And again, that's where the modes, to me, really comes alive. So, Ionian, Dorian. And you can hear the difference, okay? Of course, one sounds major in this case, the other one sounds minor. Same thing when it comes to the arpeggio. So, major 7 in this case, or like this, or starting from the major 7, minor. And you just, maybe if you don't want to work this stuff up chromatically, up and down the neck, because obviously it might take sometimes you might not have a lot of time to dedicate to the instrument. Maybe pick a different key. Say today you study everything that is in the PDF, you transpose it in C. Tomorrow you do it in F. As I said, so that you move on the neck and you visualize key centers. Last but not least, the connecting shapes. So now that we have all 5 shapes when it comes to Dorian for scales and arpeggios, you want to practice, once you know them, obviously, all 5 at the same time. So again, pick up a key, different key every day eventually. I'll use G, so you have a reference from all the other PDFs too. So you might want to start G Dorian in the shape of E. G Dorian is the shape of D minor. Shape of C minor. Shape of A minor. And the last one, shape of G minor. And of course we are back to the first one. Shape of E minor. And that's Dorian. Before we finish this lesson, I already uploaded on my Patreon, a backing track, which I'm gonna start discussing now and keep discussing next in the next lesson. Basically, it's a backing track that you can use as an exercise to verify your knowledge of Dorian at this point, and you can keep using it. At some point, you can actually use it to practice all of this basically in one go. And it's basically a cycle of fourths. So backing track simply is a chord progression that starts from G minor and move in interval of fourths. In other words, it goes G minor, then C minor, then F minor, then B flat minor, then E flat minor, then A flat minor, C sharp minor, F sharp minor, B minor, E minor, A minor, D minor, and now you're back to G minor. Because everything is moving in intervals of fourths. So from G, the fourth of G is C. Then from C, the fourth of C is F. And as you go, keep cycling in fourths, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, F sharp, B, E, A, D, and you're back to G. So you're covering all 12 keys. And as you practice, you want to see if you know just the scales in all shapes. You find yourself, okay, G minor. Do I know G minor, Dorian? Let's choose an area to start from. I'm going to start from here. You can go, okay, that's G minor, Dorian. Next is C minor, Dorian. Do I know it? So this is my C. This is going to be my shape. Do I remember this shape? Okay. Then I have F minor, and now this is my shape, or this, so shape of D minor. Do I remember that? Okay. And then you have B flat, which is actually what we've done just today. And then you have E flat, and so forth and so on. So you're going through all the shapes that you started in for the entire Dorian mode. And you can use this exercise for scales, for arpeggios, and verify that if you know them or not. If you know them with a certain, where you're able to move from one to the other in a relaxed manner, let's put it that way. So the backing track is not too fast, and it lasts kind of 10 minutes. So at some point, if you can just go through that, even once a day, that's 10 minutes of practicing Dorian, that would be already great, okay? Of course, to be able to do it, you need to be familiar. So you might want to break it down first before you try and perform to the backing track. And literally decide what you want to play and then trying to go through it, okay? If you think about it, say like, okay, G minor. These are just the arpeggios, okay? C minor. And you keep going like F minor. Okay, I know F. Next is B flat. E flat. A flat. D flat. F sharp. B. E. A, D, back to G, but as you can see now, G, I started in this particular shape, so the shape of E, and I found myself here, and you'll discover soon that as you keep going with the cycle fourths, your hand is going to slowly go up the neck, and you'll cover the entire neck at the same time, okay? Probably takes, 10-15 minutes. 10 minutes, probably top. And you'll have covered all keys all across the neck. It's a fantastic exercise to recap your knowledge. And if you spot a gap, you know what to work on. You know what you're strong at, and you know what instead, okay, that thing I don't remember. It will definitely challenge your brain, but it will definitely help you to spot your weaknesses, okay, the areas that you studied, but they're not yet perfectly embedded. But once you achieve once you have a ability to play the entire mode in interval of fourths that way, this is harder to play as an exercise than actually to play, literally to play. Because, phrasing is never so robotic and, never stopping. Actually, at the end of this video, I'll play you the backing track and I'll play along a little bit with it, so you see what I mean. But phrasing is never so continuous; it's fragmented, which also gives you your brain time to look ahead. So when you're in G, you can already start thinking, okay, I'm going to C minor. Where is C minor? You can map it in your head. The easier way, at least for me, to do that is to think chords, even if I'm playing solos or arpeggios or scales. In my head, I'm still thinking the chord. Okay, it's G minor. it's C minor, it's F minor, it's B flat, E flat, A flat, C sharp. And then, because I think the chord, I see the arpeggio and I see the scale that goes with it. Now I'm thinking C sharp. And because now I'm here, I'm thinking C sharp, okay? Which could be this, or could be this. Okay? Now because I'm here, I'm thinking this. C sharp. I hope this helps. I hope you find the lesson informative. This has been a longer one. There was a lot to discuss, but at the same time, sorry, like today I'm a bit more tired than I usually am, so probably a little bit more slow in explaining. There is a change, though, that I have to announce. For those of you that checked my last lesson, I kind of was discussing at the beginning of it, my wish to leave the PDFs, the entire lessons free, both the video, the PDF, like I've done for the past year. And I was hoping that idea to be supported, by you guys, those that enjoyed the lesson so far and found them useful. Unfortunately, it wasn't like that. Didn't have the response that I was hoping for. So unfortunately, I feel forced from now on the PDFs to download the PDFs, this and the previous ones, obviously. I hope you will subscribe to the Patreon because it will be necessary for the PDFs to be downloaded. All the PDFs are available, and the Patreon subscription is $3 a month, which is half of the price of a Starbucks. So, and I think they're definitely worth surely more than that. Okay. But as I said, I started this project with the idea of sharing knowledge. So I hope I can keep it that way. There is also advanced Patreon tiers, which are $9 a month. And that also gives you full access to backing tracks, these ones and the previous ones, and some extra material that I post there from time to time. And of course, if anybody is interested in one-to-one lessons or private lessons, there is a tier dedicated to that too. And, I look forward to anybody that wants to take private lessons with me. Okay. After this, I'm going to perform a little bit to the backing track, and until next time, it's been a pleasure. Before I forget, if you have any question, feel free to leave a comment here or like on YouTube, on Patreon, whatever you come across any of my videos. And yeah, I hope you had a good Easter and what do you call it? The 1st of May. I think it's called May Day or something. And until next time, it's been a pleasure. Bye.